Guys, let's get into a big fish to start, and that is Johnny Gaudreau. What a bounce back season for him, over 100 points with the Calgary Flames. Disappointing finish in the postseason. Obviously, it's been rumored that the Flames have an offer to him that's 8 years, around $9.5 million AAV or so, and we're still waiting to hear what Johnny Gaudreau is going to do. We know that there is a lot of interest. The rumors that if he doesn't stay in Calgary, he would like to be on the East Coast somewhere. And so starting with Johnny Gaudreau, I have this guy going to the Philadelphia Flyers in free agency. I think that the Flyers are one of those teams that could be intriguing to him, that could step up to the plate with a massive offer and would take a big swing after just a god-awful season this past year. So I've got Johnny Gaudreau going to the Philadelphia Flyers. What do you guys think to start us off?
Now, obviously, this is one I've heard a lot. He's from Salem, New Jersey, which is like an hour down the road from Philadelphia, and it's kind of known as his hometown team. But the more things go on here in Philadelphia, the less likely I think it is. Their major need right now is either defense or a centerman. And if I'm Johnny Gaudreau and I'm looking at this team and looking at their major holes, I don't want to be added on as a scoring winger without a centerman to play with and without a defenseman to back me up. Plus, the addition of John Tortorella, I don't really see the big fish going to Philadelphia anymore. Those are my two big reasons I don't see him in Philadelphia, although the narrative is certainly there, and that's been a lot of the chatter in the last little while. Like, it wouldn't shock me, but personally, I don't have him going to Philadelphia. What do you think, Chad?
Philadelphia for me doesn't make sense because I think this is going to be a life decision for him. And I think if you want a good life in the NHL, you want to go to a contender. And Philadelphia is just nowhere close. Like, they had an abysmal season this year. Adding Tortorella at this point, I don't think it makes sense. Goaltending is shaky. What the hell is going on their blue line? Lost Claude Giroux up front. Like, they have to restock the cupboards. I think it makes zero sense to Philadelphia. I get the narrative. That makes sense to me, but I just think if Johnny wants to make a decision where he wants to be on a contender, Philadelphia is just out of the question because they're not even close.
All right, you gonna back that up at all? After we tear you down?
No, that's okay. I mean, I think a big thing for Philly is if they can stay healthy. You know, like I don't think it would be that bad of a situation for Johnny Gaudreau to play next to Sean Couturier, for example, in the middle. So, and I don't know, I have seen that, you know, Philadelphia just doesn't really have an appetite for a rebuild, and that they could be a team to take a big swing, and they've been connected to Johnny Gaudreau before. So I think if they can stay healthy and, you know, offer him the right package, and if he's able to play with a guy like Sean Couturier, I think that could maybe work.
No, I definitely think that Philadelphia could be a team that's going to make a big swing, and I think they have to here. But I think it's just more likely to be a centerman. And for me, the Johnny Gaudreau Couturier matchup there, I just don't think it works when it comes to line matching, because Couturier is going to be playing against the other team's top scoring threat line every single game, and I don't know if you want Johnny Gaudreau on that in that same role. So plus, Philadelphia's got to do something about some of their contracts that they have on the books. They've got to move JVR if they're even going to think about getting Gaudreau, because right now I think they have $7 million available, and that is not in the wheelhouse of Johnny Gaudreau after 115 points.
Either move him or buy him out and do something about that. But yeah, there's some money that needs to come off the books for sure in Philadelphia. I will say this: we started talking about arguably the biggest fish. You know, the guy at 115 points last year. A couple years ago, we had 99. Like, this guy can score, he can pass, he can do it all offensively. Case, you mentioned some of the defensive blunders for the player, but whatever, he gets a shit ton of points. I will say that even after hearing that there was an offer of $9.5 million for 8 years, or roughly in that range, there's been a lot of chatter that Johnny should just accept it. And, you know, it seems like he likes staying in Calgary. You know, I've heard talk of him loving the Stampede, and his family likes it there, and that's why I say it'll be a family decision for him. But I will say a lot of the chatter coming out of TSN Calgary is saying that, they're prepared to move on if they have to, and they can spend that money elsewhere, because that they have to re-sign Tkachuk and Mangiapane as well, and then they could get someone else on the free agent market, maybe at a lesser price, who brings, I don't want to say comparable production, because 115 points is crazy, right? But at least, some more depth scoring. And I think they're actually prepared to move on. So I'll say that.
My lackluster answer is that he's not going anywhere, and he's going to stay in Calgary for $9.5 million, 8 years, and for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But to keep that lackluster, boring answer out of play, I will say that, two teams that I think about where they're going to lose a big fish to free agency, so then they become the biggest contenders for picking up another one, is Calgary, like you're saying, Chad, and Nashville. And I see if Nashville loses Philip Forsberg, and after picking up McDonough on the back end, now their top four is disgusting in Nashville again. It's like deja vu here. And they've had a lot of players last season really get back to what we're used to from them, and Duchesne and Johansson. Like those guys have really come back from poor seasons. So I think now Nashville has to strike again. If they lose Philip Forsberg, they need some winger scoring. So I think Gaudreau would be a perfect replacement for Philip Forsberg. In fact, that's an upgrade for them. And I believe they have the money to do so as well. So I believe Gaudreau to Nashville is a possibility here.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you're a team within $3 or $4 million of signing Gaudreau, because, like, let's predict his ticket, probably 8 times 10, right? Or 8 times 9.5, basically what Calgary offered him. If you're within $3 and $4 million bucks of being able to sign that player, you make it happen. You make the offer happen. You move the money around, like you figure it out, right? Like that's like one or two players. So Nashville makes total sense for me. I could see him landing there. The one thing I'll say about Nashville is, like, I don't know what the hell their direction is. It seems like, they sell a guy and then they buy a guy. They sell a guy, they buy a guy. But it seems like now, after getting McDonough, they're all in.
After this season,
after making the playoffs,
McDonough, they're in.
Yeah, so that makes sense now that it seems like they're all in, even though I think they probably should have rebuilded over these last couple of years. But, to each their own.
Yeah.
I'll say, Case, I'll stick with the boring answer, because I know that's your true answer. And I'll say I think he stays in Calgary. And I said this before when we talked about it. I think he just figure out the money there. I think maybe they get Mangiapane on a cheaper deal, bridge deal or something. They figure it out with Tkachuk. They bring the guys together and say, hey, listen, do you want to stay here? Let's get it done. We know Tree Living is kind of an old school GM. I think that's how it works. I think they get it done.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been a team in the past to let big fish go. Giordano, I guess, would be the argument there, but their arm was a little tied there. And after that, I can't really think of anyone, TJ Brody, but even that isn't as big of a fish. But in the past, the only guys I can think about walking are like a Camilleri, who was only there for a handful of seasons. So they're definitely an old school organization, and they always try to get it done with their guys, or they make a trade. I would be a terrible Devils fan if I didn't mention that any scoring winger available is going to be tied to New Jersey right now.
So
Plus,
annoying.
he is literally from the state. So that is my last and final option. I actually have 3 set up for Gaudreau, and it's Calgary, Nashville, and then New Jersey. I would be thrilled, but I don't expect it to happen. It's just kind of that they need a scoring winger. He's a scoring winger. Connection made.
Yeah, I think New Jersey finds a scoring winger from within, like probably Holtz or someone like that. I don't know. I think they need someone, but I don't think
there's other options out there that they're going to go for.
Yeah, they don't need an 11 or a $10 million guy to fill a need. Like, I think that creates a problem for New Jersey in 2 years. When they got to start signing guys. But
well, it'd be interesting too for the Devils. Like if we see them for a second summer in a row spend big money on a big time UFA, right? Dougie Hamilton last offseason. Do they do the same and get a Gaudreau or whoever else this offseason? That would be really interesting to see.
Listening to Tom Fitzgerald, that is the plan.